Hi, this is Life Coach Hope coming to you from Austin, Texas, and today I'm delivering another golden nugget. So today is about choosing higher perspectives. I've been talking with my clients a lot these days about the concept that once we become more in control of how we are seeing our world, we can choose the perspective that we wish to apply on whatever's going on in our world. Most of us are not, however, in charge of how we see the world. We have some default reactions, some long-learned perspectives that we may have picked up from our parents or our community, our friends, our workplace. And many times those perspectives are negative in mind, or negative in valuation of what's going on, if I can say that. So how does one choose a higher perspective? And the question becomes, what is the value of choosing a higher perspective? So for example, let's say that one day a person maybe gets into a fight at work, not a fight, but maybe their manager says something critical or something that hurts. And so someone who is not in charge of their reaction or internally managing themselves would maybe take that as a slight, and they might use that experience to feel negative or negatively, to hurt themselves even further with it. Especially if the manager commented on something that the person already feels sensitive about, or if that person already has a button about that. So for example, if we think that we're disorganized, I like to use this example a lot. If we think that we're disorganized and this is something that we have not really owned or claimed in our life, and we think it's something that's wrong with us, and then someone says you're disorganized, you need to be more organized, then that hurts more because we already think it about ourselves. However, if someone wants to choose a different perspective, there's a couple of things that can go on there. When somebody says something that hurts us deeply, it usually means that we have that button. It means it's like a wounding, something that happened in our childhood or happened somewhere along the line, or we decided to think it about ourselves, and we haven't really processed it, made peace with it, forgiven ourselves, and we hold that button as a hot button. So if somebody pushes it, then we get angry at them for pushing it. But we're the ones who have the button. So anytime someone says something to you that really hurts, a great lesson to learn is, wow, I have something inside me that really hurt. Why did that really hurt? It hurt because you believe it as well, or you think that it's something that's wrong with you. So there's part of that. Another part of choosing a higher perspective, and so that would be part of choosing a higher perspective, is to say, hey, that hurt, and why did it hurt? Did it hurt because that person is mean? Did it hurt because it's true or it's not true? Because if somebody says something to you that you know not to be true, you don't care, right? You're like, whatever, that's their choice, that's their thing, that's what they think. But I don't believe that, so I'm not going to be hurt by it. But if you feel hurt by it, chances are you believe it to be true. So great to find those buttons, because once we understand these sore spots, these wounds inside of us, we can work to accept them, to process them, to heal them, to forgive them, to own them. And that is a pretty high place to come from. That's a pretty high perspective. Another perspective that we can choose when someone says something hurtful to us is to realize that what they have said says a lot more about them than it does about us. Now that's a hard one for a lot of people to hear and to accept, but it's true. So if I'm a judgmental person and I go around and I say something judgmental to somebody else, who's that really about? That's really about me, isn't it? It's not about them. I have a judgment about them and I'm going to say it. That's about me. That's about me thinking that they need to be different, that they need to change. So recognizing that when someone says something to you or someone does something, chances are it's way more about them than it is about you. Another example is in traffic. so many of us get so wrapped around the axle, if you will, by the traffic habits or driving styles of other drivers. We take it personally. We get offended. Oh my God, look at that person. What a jerk. Well, he did that to me. But the reality is those are that person's choices. And we can let it affect us or not let it affect us. We can let our heart rate go up and our stress levels rise or not. Believe it or not, we do not have to take that on. And sometimes it's scary. Sometimes drivers do things that are just unpleasant and seemingly very stupid. And when I see that, I just kind of back away. I'm like, hey, I don't need to be involved with that, right? So another perspective, another higher perspective that we can choose when something unpleasant happens is to say, what did I learn from that? Or here's an even higher one. How can I have gratitude for this experience? How can I turn this into a learning experience or turn this into something, a lot of times it's something, I would never say that to someone else, so we learn from the things that people say to us or things that happen in our life. We learn what we don't want to do. That's a very high perspective, is sort of to learn from other people's mistakes, if you will, but not to make them wrong, just to kind of remember that, put it in your file and go, okay, that's not something that I would like to do to other people because I remember how unpleasant that was for me. So choosing higher perspectives, perspectives that expand your experience as opposed to contracting your experience. So if we have a negative experience and we think somebody did that to us and that's terrible and we are the victim and they are the perpetrator and life sucks, then there's not really many places to go from there. There's not much learning in that. But if we ask the question, what can I learn from this? How did this change my life, or how can it change my life going forward? Then the experience becomes an opportunity. And when we begin to look at life as an opportunity, which it is, it's an amazing opportunity. And in every experience, not just the positive things, but especially inside the, quote, negative experiences, there is a lesson. There is something for us to learn about ourselves, about the world, about other people, about being human, about life. There's always a lesson. So if you can take those experiences that were painful, or the ones you think that you might rather not have, and find the nugget inside, find the lesson. If you can make the lesson bigger than the negativity of the experience, then that experience becomes almost, I want to say, a rite of passage, or a passage part. A part where you're learning, as opposed to getting stuck in a story of pain and suffering. So there's a couple of different ideas about choosing a higher perspective, and the biggest thing about choosing a higher perspective is that once you start to do it over and over and over, your mind will start to go there as its default, as opposed to going into suffering, pain, victimhood. So whatever we do with our mind again and again and again is what our mind will begin to do for us when we're not paying attention. So that's your golden nugget for tonight, and I hope it was helpful. And if you are interested in working with a life coach, check my website out at lifecoachhope.com. And until the next golden nugget, shine your light, smile, you're alive.